Hello, welcome back to Tuesday training for manual and movement practitioners, where we meet every single week to talk shop, learn functional anatomy, biomechanics, getting our clients out of pain. And this month we have a very special focus, which is earning a good living and finding out, is your money type hijacking your success? Is your money type hijacking your success? And also, do you charge what you're worth, or do you charge what you think you can get away with charging? Are you charging your value, or are you charging something else? How do you feel about raising your rates? Do you even need to raise your rates? How is all of the rates, wealth, value, and distribution working for you? That's what we're talking about this month. Specifically today, we are going to follow up on our conversation from last week about money types. I left you guys with a very exciting exercise to check out your money type, identify what it is currently, because it can fluctuate, and find out if it's contributing to you being successful or if it's actually getting in the way of you being successful. And when I first learned money types, boy, was it an eye opener for me. So that's why I offered it to you guys. So if I'm just meeting you for the first time, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Gina Schatz. I'm your host for the hour and every week here on Practitioner Training Tuesday. If you're watching here on YouTube, I'm glad that you're here live. Pop in and let me know that you're here. I'm eager to say hello to you. We're going to work through some money conversation today. I'm super excited about what we did last week together in our money conversation. It was so open and vulnerable. Looks like Gary's working out his camera. Sometimes Gary's camera does that. Sometimes Gary's camera hijacks. Maybe not the money type, but the camera hijacks. So we'll get you in here, Gary. Thanks for working it out. I'm glad that you're working it through. I do have YouTube open so I can see you guys are here. Welcome for those of you watching live. So happy that you are here. Again, for those of you I haven't met, I feel like I stopped mid-sentence there. For those of you who I haven't met, I am a career bodywork therapist, integrated bodywork therapist. I've been doing it for a couple decades. And so everything that I share with you here on Tuesday training is either anatomy that I use to do the work that I do, or share with you some strategic ways of thinking through some client work. And in this month of May, I'm actually talking to you about thriving because it matters to me that we all thrive. I'm not a business coach, but I have paid heartily for my own business coaching. And I also recognize that a lot of us have paid for a lot of things in the last several years, thinking that the thing we paid for was going to be the answer. And I'm here to tell you that it's you that is the answer. It's you that is the answer. It's not the thing outside of you that is the answer. And that is, of all the value that I learned from all the business coaching that I invested in for myself, that's what I learned the most. So I'm here to impart on you what I learned during that business coaching journey, but not to mistakenly lead you to think that I am switching hats and becoming a business coach. I am an integrated bodywork therapist, and I love teaching anatomy to practitioners who are up to good work in the world. I just happen to also have a few things that I'd love to share with you about how to succeed and thrive for multiple decades. The average lifespan of our career path is way less than it should be. For massage therapists, it averages about 5 years. And for movement practitioners, personal trainers, yogis, Pilates, rarely do they make a full-time living, even within 5 years. So we get to change that, guys. And that has those statistics I've stated multiple times before. It has not changed in the 30 plus years I've been full-time. So come on, let's make this really viable for all of us, which is why we're focusing on it this month. Gary, I'm a little bit concerned and I'm not sure how to support you with the tech, but I trust that you'll figure it out. I feel like every Zoom meeting I've had this week had a little something in it. Maybe Zoom's updating themselves, but we're not picking on you, Zoom. I'm just acknowledging that it might not be on your end, Gary, but keep trying. Would love to have you here live.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh,
The
good
mic
enough
still
for
there?
today. Good enough.
Yeah. So at least you're here in vocal cords, and if you can figure out your camera, that also works as well. I know you've done that before successfully, so I'm rooting for you. Those of you who are watching here on YouTube, the video. So Gary's got his camera off on Zoom, and I've got my notifications now not showing up for me on YouTube, but that's okay. We're gonna all get together here very soon, and I'll be in the same room. I feel us close. There we go. Now I can see the chat. Okay, got it. So I can see that there's several of you here watching live, and I'm so glad that you're here. I wanted to give you a warm official welcome and hello. You can let me know in the chat if you want to tell me who is here, where you're coming from, where you're logging in from live, and let's get to it. So last week, I gave you guys a preview on the money types. I mentioned one of them while we were here live, and I told you there were four total. I sent you guys a complimentary login so that you could take a 30-minute little mini workshop, and the workshop comes with worksheets. So the reason that's important is because we want to know what our current money type is, but we also want to know what all four of them are, because the money type can fluctuate quite a bit. And it's circumstantial, it's also mindset related, it's also, I think, phase of life related. So we don't want to get too committed to our money type, but we do want to be responsible for our money type. And so that's why I gave you guys the workshopping so that you could workshop that out. Did anybody who's here live today do that workshopping? Did you identify what your current money type is? Anybody recognize what their money type is from the workshop that we did last week? I I would love to know what you discovered about that. I got to tell you, like I said, when I first was trained in my own money type and did my own workshopping and figured it out, I wasn't too surprised at first what my initial money type was, but I was very surprised to see how quickly I boycotted that money type. And so for those of you who did the workshopping, you know that the four types are spender, saver, martyr, and anybody remember the fourth one? Gary, did you do yours? Spender, saver. Maybe we lost you altogether, Gary. I hope not. Well, let me share this with you. In the first run through in my money type journey, I identified as a saver. I was one of those folks who really early on, my grandma taught me you put away a certain percentage of your earnings and you always save, and then you invest it and you forget about the money. You invest it and you forget about the money. It's a good advice, like solid, sound advice for sure. And I did that. I did that really young. I started working at the age of 12. And so I like to work. I like to be productive. I like to create results. I always had a side job. And so I was putting away money from a very young age. And ideally that's what you do. You put it away at a young age, you set it aside, it grows in interest. And then by the time you're old enough to realize what you would actually do with that money, it's multiplied. However, I recognized early in my 20s that I was not among it wasn't a popular thing to be early mid 20s and have a whole bunch of money set aside. No problem though, like it's not a judgment, it just was unfamiliar and I wasn't really paying attention to it because I was just putting it away, saving it and then forgetting about it like I was taught to do. And I wasn't in a group of, community where we were openly talking about it because that's not what most folks are doing in their early 20s. No problem. Then in my late 20s was the first time that all investments took a major, major hit. And half of what I had put away for the entirety of my working life up until that time just evaporated overnight one night. And I'm not the only one that this has happened to. This is not a sob story. I'm not crying the blues here. I'm just using this as an illustration to say, once that happened and I realized I could literally work all my days and then wake up one morning and before I didn't even drink coffee, I was young. Before I've even had breakfast, half of it could be gone for like no reason. And I'm a good citizen. Like what the hell was that? And again, I had not aligned with other folks who were doing great investments. My grandmother wasn't here anymore at that time, and I had forgotten about it so much so that I didn't learn about it either. I knew to take away the money from my pay earnings and set it aside, but I didn't know what to do with it once it was there. So I felt dejected. And so I went from being a saver and being really good and responsible and, almost putting money aside before I would even pay for my living expenses, which is the imbalanced version of a saver. They save so much, they're super responsible, but they don't live well because their means to an end, the way they interface with money is to save it all and not live with it well. So I was that girl in my 20s. And then when this circumstance occurred and I experienced what I experienced, almost overnight, I switched and I became an avoider, which is the fourth money type that hasn't been mentioned yet. I just started avoiding it altogether. And I believed at that time that I was still the put it aside and forget about it. But if I'm honest, I was putting it aside and avoiding it. I didn't want to know about it. I didn't look at my statements anymore. I didn't celebrate that I had saved. I didn't keep track of its growth, which is really all I was doing before anyway, was just checking my statements, being responsible, and filing it away. But now I noticed that there were months and months and quarters that had gone by where I'd receive all my statements and I wouldn't even open the mail, completely wanting to avoid it, just avoid it. And then that created, over a period of about 7 or 8 years, that created a lot of disappointment and some shame. And I decided, well, my relationship with money doesn't work. And so I'm going to switch it and do something else. And I switched money types a third time and I became a spender. And I was like, well, saving it didn't work. And I wasn't experiencing the life I wanted then. And I'm not going to experience the life that I thought savings would create for me. So I'm going to be a spender and see how that goes. And I'm sure you guys can imagine how that went. My reason for sharing the story with you is that we have very clear identified money types in certain chapters and certain life windows of time, if you will. And certain circumstances may or may not affect the money type. Either way, whether it's an external circumstance like a recession or you lose your money or you have a devastation and a house fire or something, you lose all your money, whether it's an external circumstance or not, it's still an internal relationship that you have created in an identity to the money you have, don't have, lost, saved, spent, whatever. And that is really the underbelly of why we bother to learn money types, so that we can see what's underneath the way we are relating with money, not only to identify the money type, although that's important because you can start to see immediate places where you're serving yourself or not serving yourself. But then once you've identified all four of them, recognize in yourself what is the driver that is creating the money type. Because here's the honest takeaway, right? In that workshopping, ideally, we would identify equally with three of the four. Ideally, we would identify with three of the four money types. And the fourth one is not great, the martyr. But ideally, we would identify with three of the four. And here's what I mean by that. You save responsibly, you spend comfortably, you avoid worry. Not avoid the money and what you're saving or your bills, but you avoid the worry. So the thing with avoiders, if when you did the workshop, you'd see the thing with avoiders is because they don't know if they're making money, saving money, interest accruing debt, because they're avoiding the whole thing and they don't know. They're actually the hardest workers of the bunch. Avoiders work harder than savers because savers are responsible and they're methodical and they have an organization to what they earn, what they put away, how much they save, and then what they do about it. They look at the invoice, they set it aside, they wait till the next quarter invoice shows up. There's a cadence to that. In an avoider money type, there is no cadence. So they don't know if they're making it, losing it, multiplying it, in trouble, about to be in trouble, not in trouble. So they end up overworking instead of just facing what they get to face. And so it's not ideal to be an avoider from the fear base of it. It is ideal to avoid the fear, but avoiders are usually driven by fear, meaning they overwork because they're afraid of what their money status is instead of facing it and then avoiding any fear around it. Just like, this is the reality. This is what I'm earning. This is what I have to spend. This is what I get to save. And then moving on, almost like the methodical way of the saver. The difference between the two is that an avoider, a balanced a balance in avoider means I'm avoiding the fear, but I'm aware of what's going on. A saver is not spending anything. So a saver can get in their own way by saving so much that they can also be fear-based about it, almost scarcity minded, that if they don't put, if they're not the squirrel that's putting the nut away, they won't have a nut for later, which means they think there's lack. Instead of, I'm preparing myself for the future and I'm also living for today like a spender. A spender lives for today. So the idea, the goal, if you will, is that we want to have an equal relationship around all four money types. And that's why in the workshop I gave you balancing actions. So if you are lodged into an identity with one money type, what can you do to balance that money type so that it's not the only one you identify with, that you're actually in equal balance of the first three? When it gets to the fourth money type, the martyr, I would say there's a little bit of martyr type that could be good. I hesitate to say that in our industry though, and here's why. I'll share this with you. A martyr by money type is imbalanced, as they all are, in the way that they're overgiving and under-earning and continuing to overgive and under-earning. And what's the underbelly of that is a lack of value. So if you have a lack of value, it doesn't matter if you do the balancing actions or not, you'll find your way back to not having enough value. You'll save but not spend. You'll spend but not keep track of it. That's also another identity of not having value. When you put yourself in debt, that's you don't have value to be flush, right? The only part that I would say is valuable from the martyr money type is the open-heartedness, the big-heartedness, the generosity in service. And I would say sweepingly across our industry of both manual and movement practitioners, that's typically who I'm talking to, right? Like we are here in service for another person, in service to another person, when, especially if you're doing orthopedic pain solutions, especially when the people we're in service to, metaphorically are on their knees, right? They're feeling really helpless and afraid, and we are in service to them, not only in the compassionate way that we show up for them, but also in the really good work to get them out of pain and not waste their time, right? That's a lot of big-hearted energy. So if there was anything about the fourth money type that I would say was a keeper, it would be that. However, in a money type equation in that workshop, what we learn about the martyr is that they give and give and overgive and give and give and overgive, and their cup is constantly empty. There isn't anything left to save. There isn't anything left to spend. There isn't even anything to avoid except their avoidance of their own lack of worth, which is what gets them into this cycle of overworking and under-earning over and over and over again. Okay, so I'm hoping that this overview and why I feel like money types is so significant lands for you. And if you weren't here last week or you didn't grab that workshop last week, I really recommend it. Just go through it and see what all the money types are and how you're actually showing up. Because whatever money type you're identifying with today, all of them in an imbalanced fashion are hijacking your success. If you're a saver, it seems responsible, except maybe what you really need is to make an investment in something, not go broke, not go into debt, but make an investment in something to move the needle faster for you. Unfortunately, savers are the ones who know what the value is of long-term gains, but they hold themselves back like they have all kinds of time. And so they work longer without the value add into themselves that they could have because they're more focused on the saving instead of the investing, which is different. Not investing in your savings account, but investing in you as if you're the value add. Now, I keep saying this word value and you and your worth and your value because that's going to come up in the second part of what I'm going to share today, which is, are you earning your value? Well, one of the ways to know that is to know how you're vibing with your value. It's not what you're charging by the hour. It's what is your vibe about your value. And that dictates what you charge for the hour. So we're going to come back to that here in our second, I was going to say second chapter, in our second chapter for today. Let's go back to the money types though, and how each of the money types can hijack you. A spender is a little more obvious to see. If you're spending and spending and spending and spending, you end up becoming in debt to the point where you don't have any more money to invest in the future. And when you really need it, when a really good opportunity comes along, you're out. You don't have any more. But immediately it looks like the spenders are having more fun, and they are. So the spenders are the ones, and hear me on this till the end of what I'm about to say about spenders. Spenders are the ones who do invest in extra training, but they invest in extra training and then in the next training and then the next one and then the next one. And they're not actually extracting the value from that training. They just keep spending on more training, thinking that the next training is going to have the answer for them. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's one training that you need, and that's the only one that you need. I just spoke to someone who I'm super excited to introduce you to soon when it's all official. But this practitioner's joined our mastery track for the year. And what she said was, I see. So instead of me taking all these extra trainings throughout the year, I could just take this one, and this might be the only training I'd ever need for the rest of my career because of the way our program is set up with lifetime value, and you keep getting more training every year just for your initial investment. That's a good investment. But if I take that one that keeps giving me dividends every year, but then I doubt that one and I go buy the next shiny object training and I take that one, but only a little bit, and then I overlap that one with another one or run quickly into the next one before really implementing and seeing how it all integrates together, that's also the behavior of a spender. They're just going and going and going, and that is hijacking their success. You're burning out by doing that. Even if you have the money to spend, the spender mentality doesn't focus. And so that is what hijacks their success. Then when we get to the avoider has a little bit of both, right? They're avoiding the spending, they're avoiding the investing, they're also avoiding the part of them that they fear, because remember, under avoider is fear, that they fear isn't good enough. So they'll dabble into a higher level training, but then they'll pull right back out again because they fear that they're not good enough. And so that's why they avoid investing, spending, balancing their checkbook, and all the things. So you can tell that, I mean, fear just hijacks everything. So if you're in fear about your own worthiness, you're in fear about your own ability, you're in fear about your own capability, you're in fear about whether you made the right decision in the right training, you'll just avoid the answers to all of that and then sort of surface your way through a training and maybe go on to the next one, maybe not. But the idea is that you're surfacing, you're not actually extracting all the juice that's in that training for you. Even if it's just a weekend workshop, if you're surfacing it, you're not extracting value. If you don't extract the value, you don't become more valuable. And I promised you I'm getting back to this again. And then I spoke about the last money type and how the martyr can absolutely hijack your success because you're overgiving and under earning. Your cup is empty. Your heart is open, but the cup is empty. There's no refueling the tank. Those are the practitioners that quit too soon. Those are the practitioners who work too hard. Those are the practitioners who don't have any balance in their lifestyle between their work and their family life and their personal life and their self-care. Those are the practitioners that will never raise their rates because they're more concerned about what other people might think of them if they do, instead of like, I can't pay my mortgage. I'm, have holes in my shoes. These are not value driven decisions, even though our hearts are big and open when we identify with this money type. If we don't see our own value, no one else will either. We don't see our own value, no one else will either. And so that brings me to the second half of what I'm going to share with you guys today. And is this resonating with you guys? Gary, are you still with me even on audio? Those of you who are here watching live with me, I see that you're still here. Usually the money types conversation creates a lot of thoughtfulness, which I love. And I also am just pausing here to see if you guys have any questions, if you have anything to contribute to the conversation by way of, did you identify your money type? And is any of this resonating with you in what you've discovered and the balancing actions that you'll take to create your success? Okay. So feel free to add that into the chat if you want to do that. I want to now switch to value. I shared this in the email that came out yesterday, inviting you into Tuesday training today about value for value is really how you set your rates. And this idea is not new. It's not new to me. It's not new to our industry. It's certainly also not new to the world. For those of you who know the well-known author Florence Scovel Shinn, who was published in 1925. Guys, it's 2025, like 100 years ago, right? So 100 years, yeah. Did I do that right? Yes. I just got a little nerdy on my math here. A long time ago, 1925 is when she was published. And at that point, she published a very thin but very powerful book about internal value and manifesting a good, thriving lifestyle for you and the people that you serve. And one of the quotes that she has in that book, which is one of my favorites, I'm going to read it to you here. She says, "I have wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay." And I like it. She kind of made it like, rhymey and so we can remember it. I have wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. So I have wonderful work means I'm lit up about the work that I'm doing. I'm not burnt out. I'm not stressed out. I'm not fearing and avoiding things. And I'm also not overgiving, overworking, and dragging myself to work. I have wonderful work. Doesn't that idea, I have wonderful work, sound like a thriving energy? Wonderful work. Not like I really like my work, but after I leave work, I start fretting about like, God, I didn't make enough money today, and where am I gonna? Hope I don't have to put gas in my car today. Like that's not wonderful work. That wonderful work means I love thinking about work. I love going to work. I'm happy when I'm leaving work, and everything that I experience after I leave work is also happy. Because she goes on to say, in a wonderful way. I enjoy the atmosphere. I enjoy the exchange between myself and my client. I enjoy my internal environment while I'm at work and while I'm exchanging conversation with my client and my skill set with them. I give wonderful service, not average service. I give wonderful service. And I know this, she says. I give wonderful service. I've identified with that. I'm not waiting for tips from my clients to tell me if I did a good job today. Good job, good job. No, I know I give wonderful work. I'm aware of my skill set. I'm aware of the value that I bring to the table. I know it's wonderful. And I know that I am in service to the person that I am working with. I am in service to them. It's that reverence of the martyr type, the open-heartedness. I am in service to this person I'm serving. And she says, for wonderful pay. Not I'm happy, I'm going through the motions, I'm showing up even though I'd rather not be there, and I'm making an average salary. She doesn't say that. She says, I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. And that is right there encapsulated value for value. So I've been saying value for a long, long time, which is one of the reasons I identify with this quote from Florence Scovel Shinn, because I'm like, yes, that's what I mean. Exactly that. It's all happiness. It's all lighthearted, and it's also valuable for everybody involved. So for a lot of the practitioners that I train on value for value, what we usually find out early on is that we're not really sure what our value is, and we don't consider that our rates should be reflective of the value that we bring. What I often hear, you guys tell me if this is true for you too. What I often hear when I ask practitioners, how did you set your rate? And I don't care what your rate is, that's not where I'm going. But when I ask, how did you set your rate? First response I hear from most of them, like most 90% of the time, is, oh, well, I looked at what other, competitors or colleagues were doing in my area. And then the real savvy ones will say, and I looked at the median income in my area. And then I looked at the cost of living in my area. And then I based my rate on that. And I am here to invite you all to consider that that is not the way you set a rate. I don't care that there's 100 other practitioners in your neighborhood doing what you do. Your rate is based on your value. And one of our speakers at our summit this year said it really well. Peggy said, clients don't want discounts, they want results. So they don't want your discounted package so that they can get less by coming to you, pay less by coming to you. What they want is less investment for more results. They don't want to come all the time. They don't want to have to make that time. I mean, maybe if you're doing something like a regular workout routine or, relaxation massage, it would be more of a regular cadence. I'm talking about for those of us who are doing specialized work. Clients don't want to be in physical therapy forever. And even the healthcare system, which I'm not saying this is I'm not saying this is the right system, but even they don't give you endless sessions with a physical therapist or a chiropractor. And so we know that our work is different than Western medicine, most of us here. And if you are a chiro and a PT and you're here, welcome. I love that you're here. But what we do know is that there's a limit to how much crisis medicine or pain mitigation any human being is willing to focus their attention on, right? Like we just don't want to be in pain all the time and dependent on the practitioner that we're going to, the massage therapist, the physical therapist, the chiropractor. We don't want to do that endlessly. So that's really not the value for a client to just come more often, but for less. They don't want the discount. They want the solution. They want to be out of the pain that they came to you for. And if you are working with clients in a regular cadence of, like I said, working out or maintenance body work, they want that to be the maintenance. They want that to be, they want that to be the lifestyle. That's when you do repetition with them, but not on the solutions, right? And if you're doing workouts with someone, they still want to look better than they did 3 weeks ago when they worked out with you. And I know that's a short period of time. Like you're not going to necessarily get a six-pack ab in 3 weeks. That's the point though. The clients want fast results. They want the results. They don't want the discount. So if you're even thinking a little bit that you're undercharging, you're right. If you think you a little bit that you are undercharging, you're right. And I promise you, your clients would rather that you get them what they actually want more than they would be adverse to you raising your rates. I mean, just think about it. If you want to, if you don't believe me on this, just do the math. Just do the reality on the actual addition of math. If a client needed to come to you 10 times to get a solution for a low back pain or a hip that didn't feel good or a shoulder problem, if they needed to come to you 10 times and you were only charging $50, and I said I don't care what you charge, but I do care because that's not a living wage at all. And we do the math on that in our professional development program. If a client comes to you 10 times and you only charge $50, you're charging low. They have 10 times that they have to come to you, drive to and from, take time off work, maybe put their kids in babysitting care, maybe miss a luncheon or a dinner it's an interruption in their life, okay? That means that they have paid you $500 to come 10 times. But what if you could solve the same problem in 4 sessions and charge $100? So now you're actually making a living wage. You have more time in your schedule to put other paying clients in. You're making more money because you're cycling through them faster so that you can put other clients at that rate in your schedule. You're making more money per session, and the client ends up paying less. They paid you $100 per session 4 times instead of $50 per session 10 times. So even if you do the math on whether you should be charging more or not, it's not about whether you're charging more. It's about, are you charging for the result that you're promising? Are you charging for the result that you're promising? And so there's, usually in this part of the conversation, there's like, well, but I do this. I don't just do pain relief. I do regular workout sessions. I do regular massages. I do totally fine. This applies to all of that. And I'm happy to workshop it out with you one-on-one if you want to do that. Or you can do it on your own. I trust you to do that. My reason for bringing up the information today is just to give you a new way of looking at what it is that you're charging per hour. And if you are not making enough money, you are not doing your clients a service. Because at some subconscious level, you're either fear-based, scarcity-based, resentful, or burnt out when you're working with them. Because if you're not making enough money, that tape is running in the back of your head every time you show up for a session with them. And that also means that what you're bringing to the table is not 100% value. It's not the Florence Scovel Shinn wonderful work, wonderful way idea. It's I'm going to come and put on a straight face, but my energy is going to be a little disconnected here because I'm actually strapped for cash and I need this hour to get by so I can go back and figure out how to make more money. Okay, our focus, my friends, is not to be on how am I going to make more money. Our focus as service providers, in reverence to the human body, is to be that in service to the human body, not how do I get more money. Do you see like it's not even the same framework. It's just not even the same framework. So value for value means, are you providing value to your client? And of course, your presence is lovely and you're really good at what you do. And I know that even though I can't see your face right now. But let's take it another step further. Are you providing value in the expediency in which your client would like it? Or do you get to have higher level skill so you can produce those results faster? If you're a saver money type, you won't want to invest in that higher level skill. And any of the money types might not want to invest in that higher level skill. But just notice how we get in our way with our money type, and then we mistake what our value is and what our rate should be commiserate to the value, not to the competition. Who knows what the competition's doing? Just stay in your own lane and decide, are you creating results? Like, be honest about that. Are you creating results? I know, now again, I've been at this for a while. When I'm using the shots method with clients and they come in with a chief complaint in a certain area of their body, my average now, and I didn't make this up, it was revealed to me, is 4 sessions or less. I know I make changes in the first session. The second session is usually the heavy lifting and the demarcation of how this is going to go. And the third session, we're usually really close to being done, if not already done. And then the fourth session is a follow-up or a checkup or a final tune. After that, they have everything they need to have the pain that they came in the area that they came resolved, find out what caused it at the source, and a full protocol to go home and maintain that so it doesn't come back. I happen to have that number. I know that it's 4. That's amazing that I can have that number. It also means that for the clients who want to get out of pain fast, I can give them that number because I have those results. If you're still looking to create results fast, think about how you're going to do that. Do you need more training? Do you need more focus? Do you need to put your treatment plans together? I don't know what that is, but add value in that way. When you can save people time and ultimately save them money, which we just did when I was organizing out $50 an hour versus $100 an hour, it saves them money to pay double than the 10 sessions it used to cost them to come to you for the same thing. So just think about that. Do you have accurate connection to the results that you provide? Do you know what results you provide? Do you know how long that takes for you to provide them? Do you have a track record of resolving the chief complaint that your client comes to you with? Do you know how long it takes for them to reach their goal? Without throwing them under the bus, making it the client's fault, they weren't in compliance. See, here's part of the value that I bring to the table too, that I want you to consider bringing to the table if you don't already. When I know that it takes 4 sessions for a client to get the results that they are looking for, inherent in that 4 sessions is they have to be contributing. because the work that we do isn't passive. I'm not going to strengthen someone's stabilizing muscles or add to their muscles that are contributing to their misalignment and then create alignment if they're not actually doing the work. It's not going to happen passively on the table. They're going to stand up and walk out the same way they came in. They've got to participate. So, inherent in those 4 sessions, I know that that means the client participates. If they're not participating, here's the value. I get to figure out how to message to them in a way that enrolls them in participating. I need to figure out what they need to hear, how I get to say it succinctly, how I get to tie the homework to the benefits, how I get to make the homework very simple and approachable and targeted, and take out all the extraneous noise and confusion and even fear if they're in pain. That's part of the value that I bring. Someone saying, go stretch when you go home today is not adding value. Stretching doesn't even exist. So that's definitely not adding value. So what is the total value that you're bringing? What skill sets did you need to learn how to message in that way, to understand a benefits versus features conversation, to assign a specific homework that you know is going to have an impact on their body and their chief complaint instead of just arbitrarily making them busy when they get home so that you feel like you offered them value. Don't make people waste their time by doing exercises at home that aren't actually going to move the needle on the chief complaint that they want a resolution to. Make sure you're targeting their program to what they need so that they see the results fast. Remember, everybody wants the results. They don't want the discount. So that leads me to what is the wide range of experience that you have with all types of different scenarios that you have successfully documented results around? That's also what you're bringing to the table, the confidence, the assurance, the I got you. We're going to figure this out because I've already done this before. This is your first time. This is my 50th time. Like, I'm going to get you there faster because I've done this before. That's also bringing more value to the table. Are you skilled? Are you vetted? Or have you taken that advanced training and then defaulted back to the other thing you used to do? Maybe you were a spender and you're just all over the board on all types of certifications. More is better, more is better, more is better, but you didn't actually deep dive into figuring out, am I good at it? And so that's not actually adding more value. That's just you being very busy, but actually not moving the needle or retreating back from the advanced training to the way you used to work, which wasn't the results that you wanted, or you wouldn't have looked for the training in the first place. Like, let's just be honest about that. And then I'll leave you guys with this. Once you have identified the training, and I say advanced training because we all know that school was an amazing, needed, necessary foundation, and it didn't teach us everything we needed to know. Oh my gosh, guys, how could it, right? Like the biggest program I took in the United States was 1,000 hours, and then I had an undergraduate degree of 1,800 hours of more body work after that, and I still continue to train. So you get to be vetted. And here's the thing. When you add up all that training that you have derived skill set from, which means you get to implement that training, not just have the certificate on the wall. Look, I did this thing for the weekend and got this many training hours in. Yeah, but what are you doing with that training? Once you have the training that you are fully invested in and that you have extracted all the juice from that lemon, you didn't hop, skip, and jump or avoid it and put it in the back burner and fold your notebook up when training was over, but you extracted all that training and you continue to be better at what you do. You continue to create results. You continue to add confidence and clarity to what's happening between you and your client and their body. When you continue to bring value from the training that you have invested in, I firmly believe you should be recouping your tuition from the work that you're doing. The wonderful pay part of Florence Scovel Shinn's famous quote, you should be recouping your tuition. I say that to every practitioner that joins my year-long program from day one. You should be, and I don't like to should on people. I'm pretty thoughtful about my words, but like there's a should. You should be recouping your tuition before the end of the year here, or you're not utilizing this high-level skill that I'm teaching you. You're just learning it. Learning it and utilizing it are not the same. Pretty notebooks don't create results. practitioners who are willing to be messy in the treatment setting and scratch their head and maybe get it wrong and come back for training and coaching from their mentor so that they can get over the hump quicker to resolve it better the next time. That's high level training. That's someone who's actually implementing. And when you're doing that, you're creating more expedited results for your clients. They are willing to pay for that because you're saving them money anyway by getting them there faster. So I do believe that if practitioners, and I've said this, if you guys are listening, because I know you tune in and I love that because they're here to gobble up all the training. But practitioners who are Schatz Method practitioners who are graduates, alum, or about to graduate here in the next month, I mean it when I say you should be recouping your tuition. It doesn't do me as a trainer, as an educator, any good to take your money and not have you add value back into your industry, back into your clients' lifestyles, and back into your own living experience. If you're not thriving, then you're contributing to the average 5 years or less career span in our industry. And in the 30 plus years I've been here, that doesn't work. We are needed on the planet to do amazing work. There's more people who need us than there are those of us to serve. We've got to be doing that readily at a high level value, fully focused, fully nourished, fully rested, and able to do really good work. We're needed. And in order for us to do that, it's an inside job. It's our responsibility to create that kind of clarity about our own value. It's our responsibility to get out of our own ways and the ways that we take ourselves out of the game and hijack our own success. It's our responsibility to identify what money type are we running right now? And is it running rogue or have I balanced it? That's on us. It's got nothing to do with the economy. Not at this stage of the conversation. It has nothing to do with the city that you live in. Not at this stage of the conversation. It has nothing to do with external forces. It has everything to do with what you're doing with your own investment or lack thereof, and your skill set or lack thereof, and your relationship with money or lack thereof on the inside. It's got everything to do with that first. It's you first, and then the outside world second. Okay, so I hope this was valuable for you, pun intended, that you are now considering value for value. What value do you bring to the table? What value are you offering? And are you earning a viable living? Are you thriving or are you under earning? And I didn't make up the phrase under earning. That was Barbara Stanny who gave us under earning. And I also studied with her too. And just like a lot of you, I got to get over it. And that's why I'm sharing this wisdom with you, because it doesn't serve anybody when you're not thriving. It doesn't serve anybody when you're not thriving. And notice that in all of the conversation that we had today, none of it said gouge the other person, determine what they can afford, count how much money they make by the car that they drove to their appointment. None of it had to do with that. It's not about the outside world. It's about you and your value and whether you're willing to stand in those shoes. Okay, my friends, that's it for today on value. I would love, love, love to hear what's coming up for you. I would love to hear what you discovered, what is resonating with you, and even where you still feel like you get to have some support, because I really mean it when I say we all get to go together. We all get to thrive. If you are in our club, then you know that we're running the 12 credit hour continuing education course, which is included in the club membership for May. We're halfway through the month of May. Please make sure that you have digested all of that material. There is myself and a mental health provider who ran that program. We called it a boot camp when it ran live. There's workshopping and exercises and lots of ways to uncover who you're being with money and your frequency around money. I haven't even talked about any of that here today or last week. That's just continuing the journey on making a good living and thriving. If you are in the club, please make sure that you absorb that material before the end of May. Give yourself a chance to, make the transformation happen. And if you're not yet in the club and this appeals to you for coursework, come as my guest. Everybody's welcome into the club for 7 days. You can digest all or as much of the course material that you can in the 7 days trial and $0. So just come for a week and digest that material and do the workshopping, download the worksheets. You can take the worksheets with you if you choose to leave the club, but just please come and make this transformation. We get to thrive across our industry so that when we meet here, we're talking about the next high level work that we're doing, and we're not coming to even the Tuesday training conversations in a little bit of scarcity, right? Notice if you come with a little bit of scarcity every week, you're probably only hearing part of what's being said. So come thriving, come open, come satisfied and nourished. That's my wish for you. All right. And until I see you guys next week, which we will continue our conversation about money and earning and value for the next few Tuesday trainings until May is complete. Until I see you then for our next conversation on professional development, be well and know that I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you, and I know that you can do this, and I'm so grateful for the amazing work that you do in the world. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.